Hello and welcome to our podcast, 10 Lessons It Took Me 50 Years to Learn, where we talk to business people, journalists, ambassadors, artists, sports heroes, leaders and luminaries from all over the world. Our goal is to dispense wisdom for life and for business and to provide you with shortcuts to excellence. My name is Siebe Van Der Zee and I'm your host. I'm originally from the Netherlands, happily residing in the beautiful state of Arizona in the United States, also known as the Dutchman in the desert. I hope you will enjoy this program. This podcast is sponsored by PDF, the Professional Development Forum. You can find out more about PDF at professionaldevelopmentforum.org. Our guest today is Arthur Valkieser. Arthur is the founder and CEO of Hydraloop, I should say it correctly. Hydraloop, a successful water recycling company based in the Netherlands, but with a global reach. Arthur started the company on the premise that it is absurd that in the 21st century, people still keep flushing their toilets with precious water, as it is becoming scarcer every day. Worldwide water shortage is becoming a huge problem, and an effective solution to save drinking water is to recycle and reuse residential gray water. Hydraloop launched globally at the Consumer Electronics Show, CES, in 2020 in Las Vegas, and it had an immediate impact. The company was awarded Best of Innovation in the category Sustainability, Eco-Design, and Smart Energy, and Hydraloop was also recognized for Best Startup, Best Sustainable Product, and overall Best of the Best award. I like that, leading more than 4,000 competitors in different categories. In a documentary, and I recommend you watch it, Brave Blue World, the company is featured as one of the key solutions to solve worldwide water crisis. Arthur started his career in broadcasting, and his company focused on digital video and audio, which was in the 1980s, brand new technology, eventually became one of the biggest independent broadcast facility companies in Europe, employing more than 400 people. Arthur also received the Broadcast Personality of the Year award by Broadcast Magazine for his outstanding entrepreneurial achievement. Eventually, Arthur became more of a serial entrepreneur with interest in multiple companies, one of them being a company producing residential water recycling products. In 2016, Arthur decided the time was right for the market introduction of a gray water treatment and recycling system, and Hydraloop was born. Wow. Use water twice. What a great story. Welcome, Arthur, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this introduction. Thank you.
It's quite a career, actually multiple careers that you have had, but I know with Hydraloop you are extremely successful in multiple countries in a very short time frame. When it comes to climate change, and it's not a simple question that let's say would get a simple answer, but are we still in line? Can we still solve the problems of climate change, or are we running out of time?
I think we can still solve it, and we have to solve it, isn't it? We have to solve it, and we can. And the good thing is that more and more people all over the globe, they understand that they themselves are part of the solution. They have to act themselves by changing their lifestyle. We have to do it so that the world is ready in the next decades for our children. And this idea is landing in a larger group of people.
Yeah, I was thinking also in case of the products that you have with Hydraloop, adjusting the recycling system in your own home. That is, of course, something that people can control. They can make decisions on, and it will save them some money.
Yes, and decentralized is everywhere. Energy, with your solar panels, with your batteries.
Yeah.
And the same thing, you have in the past, you had this big laundry where you would bring your laundry, and then the laundry machine became also something that you have, an appliance that you have in your house, like the fridge and the microwave and your air conditioning, your climate control. And the water recycler simply fits very nice in this appliance package. So collect your own lightly contaminated wastewater from the shower, treat it so it meets the standards, and use it again to flush the toilet, for your washing machine, and irrigate your garden. You're in control of your own water and of your own treated wastewater and use it again.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Now, you and I are going to be talking about the 10 lessons that you have learned. And you have indeed you have had multiple careers, and you have been successful at different stages of your career. And when I think of everything you have done, I'm curious, is there a greatest lesson that you have learned?
Yeah, actually, it was not so long ago that it became clear to me that the art of living is to master the skill to give meaningful circumstances the opportunity to unfold in your favor. It's a bit difficult sentence, but by developing this skill and learn to listen to your intuition, you can let the circumstances have a positive effect on achieving your goals, and use time to influence the circumstances so that they support your mission. People say, to some people they are always lucky, and to other people, they're unlucky. The circumstances are there, but some of these circumstances are meaningful to you and some are not. So the art of living is to master, to recognize what is meaningful for you, link with that, and as soon as the circumstances are not for you, accept it. Don't try to fight it, but change your route and use timing to tackle it and handle it and go on.
That is wisdom that you're describing. It comes over time. It's not something that when you are in your 20s that you say, okay, this is how I have to approach it.
Yeah, well, I think it is, I completely understand that the sentence itself only gets the value when you start to understand the meaning of it. But actually, more and more and more, I understand that your intuition is very important because it's telling you a story.
Yeah, I like it. And also, Arthur, this is what we're talking about in this podcast, right? It's sharing wisdom with up and coming professionals, as we say, at any age. The lessons that you have learned, and you are very kind to share your 10 lessons with us. So let's move to lesson number 1. Never lie, always be honest.
Yes, telling the truth makes you feel good and makes you trustworthy in the eyes of others, and also makes life simple. You can concentrate on the real subject and you don't have to remember what lie you told to who. So be honest and go on, and it's, if you made a mistake, just tell it, be honest, and then people accept you who you are.
I like it. And at the same time, perhaps there are situations where you keep information from someone or you lie to someone in order to, quote unquote, protect them.
Yeah. So sometimes I know what you mean. Sometimes you have this knowledge that you maybe you don't have to share it at the same moment that you have this knowledge, because timing is also important. Also, with respect to the others. Yeah. So, but lying and not telling the truth, this is completely wrong.
Yeah. No, and I agree.
Yeah. And you will fail. You will fail. Bottom line, you will fail.
Is it fair to say that even though most people would agree with you, that most people have at some point in their lives lied?
I lied too in my life.
Okay. I didn't want to ask it like that.
Yes. Yeah. I learned this, I learned it, not to do it. And of course, these were those big lies, but it starts with a small lie, with the person you love or with your work with, and then it becomes a habit. So, and you should protect yourself, not let this habit develop in you by simply not doing it. And if you recognize that you did it, you can change yourself and improve yourself and learn not to do that. Don't lie.
Makes sense. I like it. Lesson number 2, define your goals. How do you mean that?
Yeah.
In what context do you mean that? Define your goals, write them down, or
long-term
goals?
So, keep it abstract, but don't be shy. Think big, when you dream, sometimes you have this idea and then don't make it smaller, make this dream and make this as a goal for you to live. And then what happens is actually you're programming your subconsciousness. And because of that, everything you're going to do will contribute to realize this goal and this mission. And I did this 5 years ago when we started with Hydraloop, and so after a few years, when we had the technology, then we had to bring it to market. And we simply said, in 10, 15 years' time, no house will be built without its own water recycling. That is the goal. And it will happen. It will happen. And and now other companies are telling the same story. So think big. Think big.
Yeah, I like it. And indeed, that's what you're doing. And at the same time, you have had, as I said earlier, multiple careers where you set goals, but you continue to drive and set new goals. That's, I think, another element that is interesting. It's not to say, well, I've reached a goal, so I'm done. In your case, especially, you continue to set new goals.
Yes, but not because I want to, but it happens. It happens. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. You're wired that way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Have trust that solutions will present themselves. Lesson number 4.
Yes. And this is something I learned. When you do something and you challenge yourself, sometimes or many times you have a problem. And actually, this problem is nice because this problem needs a solution. But I also experienced sometimes that I could be depressed because it didn't go as I wanted it to go. I've learned that at that moment, when you feel depressed, do nothing. Do nothing. Wait until that's over. Go and walk. Go to bed. Don't drink too much, because the next day, your unconscious worked on solving that problem and it will come. And actually, I count on it. Most of the time, a solution for a problem will simply be brought to your consciousness, because out of your unconsciousness, because it was working somewhere in the back of my head. I don't know how this works, but have trust. The solutions will present themselves to you, and you can even count on it. Not 100%, but 75%. Yes, you can.
I agree, first of all, and you have to allow yourself to go through that difficult moment and experience that. What you mentioned, and I like to think the same, but it's not always fair to expect that from people, the next day. In other words, you allow yourself to be down and out for a moment, that day, that evening, but the next day, you pick things up again. That's what you mentioned, right? And I like that, but of course there are people that are dealing with a downturn that affects them more than a short term.
Yes, yeah. So what I learned is, because if you have this fallback or if you have this depression, actually you're not in the right state to take a decision. So just pause. Don't take a decision, but maybe you take the wrong decision based on this situation you're in. So wait until it's over and then look again to it and then take the decision. Feeling and emotion, I see a feeling or emotion is something completely different than intuition. And a feeling and an emotion is a state that you're in affecting what you do, but you have to be very careful, because you can take the wrong decisions based on feelings and emotion.
Yeah, I deal a lot with people in executive search that apply for a job, they go through the process, and then they're not hired for that job. And that can hit people, especially if they're already out of a job, that can hit people very hard. But I still use the same type of mindset that you explained to say, okay, yes, you didn't get the job, you can be upset about that, but tomorrow, make sure
there's a better one.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm very much in line with what you said there. The next lesson: always keep questioning and researching. And my gosh, I think that seems to fit you very well.
Yeah, because the more you learn, the better you understand what you don't know. And it's also very important that you are open to change your mind or change your opinion about a certain subject, if there is a valid argument to do so. And in this process, it is important to question, and to read and research. And this is how your wisdom grows. I started about 15 years ago to read about Spinoza, and you know Spinoza. He
Yeah.
was born in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
One of the biggest philosophers, and in the 17th century. And it really helped me to understand much better how what is all happening on Earth, on the world. And so you have to keep on developing yourself, and you have at a certain moment you have an opinion about something, and then you learn something, and you have to be ready to change your mind if the argument is valid.
That's real wisdom there, Arthur. It's well said. And I think it's lessons that you have learned and experienced over time, and I think very helpful for anyone. Lesson number 5, if you don't believe in what you're doing, don't expect others to believe in it.
Yes, yeah. This is, I tell you the story, this was already back in 1991 or so. And I had a very difficult phase with my company. We didn't went bankrupt, but it was close.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I didn't know what to do. I was like in this circle of this negative thinking. And then 2 friends of mine, one is a lawyer and the other one is a marketing specialist, they invited me for dinner. And I came home at 1:30 at night. And they taught me, if you don't believe in what you're doing, you will show that to others. And how can you expect others to believe in it? So either quit or modify your goal so that you believe in it and show that you believe in it, and your team will believe in it too. And I came back the next morning on the job, and I put my back right. I just reprogrammed myself, and all went well, And the year after was the best year ever. So
Wow.
If you have to believe in what you're doing, program yourself, show it, and motivate the people around you. And then together as a team, you can challenge everything.
Have you been in positions where you were able to serve as, let's say, like a coach? Have you mentored people? Have you guided people that were dealing with that, where your experience, like this one, was helpful to guide them?
Well, not really as a coach, but of course, if you have a company and teams and departments, yes, of course you are talking with people, but not as a coach doing that. No.
But let's say when you communicate to people in your company, do you feel that they pick up on that they learn from you in that sense, that they say, Arthur told me this story and he was completely right and it helped me elevate my game again?
I hope so. Yes, I hope so. Yeah.
Well, we are talking today to Arthur Valkieser, founder and CEO of Hydraloop, a very successful global water recycling company. You can learn more about Hydraloop at hydraloop.com. Let's move on to lesson number 6, the 80-20 rule. I've heard 80-20 rules, but I'm real curious what you mean with the 80-20 rule.
Okay, so if you're doing something, especially in the beginning or with a small team, you're overloaded with things you have to do. Actually, it's not one project, it's multiple projects, and they have to be done and realized in parallel.
Yeah.
And the 80-20 rule is not invented by me, by the way. It is very simple. And it's like how a sculptor or a painter works. If you have the sculptor and he has this piece of rock, he will just start to take beat the parts of rock off, and then already the figure will start to show itself. And in 20% of the time, 80% of the figure is already there. And the other 80% of the time, he will use for the details.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I try to do is do things in 20% of the time, then you have 80% of the result. And you can handle much more tasks with already an acceptable result and have a better overview of all these projects that are all important. And then when the time is there, go to the details.
Yeah, it sounds very efficient, right? It would also require planning, or is it spur of the moment that you sense what needs to be done?
Yeah, well, this is also something that actually is not in here, but I have a tendency not to start too early to do things, because circumstances change and then you have to redefine what you're going to do. So it is not a bad idea just to let it go with the flow. And of course, with your team, sometimes it can be a little bit challenging for the team, but then you are really starting with something when all the circumstances are clear.
Yeah, yeah. I'm impressed with the energy that you are displaying, and lesson number 7 kind of connects to that. Never give up. Resistance belongs to innovation.
If you're doing something new that nobody has done before, or that is new for that organization, there is resistance. It's normal.
Yeah,
it's normal. So actually, what I say, if there is resistance for your plan or for your project, it proves that it could be a very good idea. But then you have to not give up. You have to go on. And of course, you also have to check, you're not going to pull on a dead horse. But if you believe in it, if you think it's a good idea, never give up. Because it's like running the marathon. You can have the 41 kilometers. I don't know how much it is in miles, but you can run in front for 99% of the distance and fail in the last mile. So you have to never give up.
Do you have an example where you were in a situation where you had to really push through because there was resistance?
Yeah, well, resistance doesn't necessarily have to be that there is a person resistance.
Right.
But in our case, there was, to recycle water. And with our product, we went to 27 exhibitions worldwide to show 2 things. One is the power of decentralized water recycling. And 2 is our product as an example how it can be done. And, in the beginning, people were thinking, it was like they were freezing in their mind. And then, of course, you have the existing industry. You have water companies. They sell water. They think it's a threat, but it isn't. It's an opportunity, and we cannot go on with what we are doing now. There is simply not enough rain falling on our earth to compensate for the water that we take out of the rivers and out of the lakes and out of the aquifers. So we have to be much more clever and wise by using the water. And use the water twice is simply very wise. And what will happen, the growth of the water uptake by companies and by people will simply reduce. There's still a problem we have to solve. It can be solved in 50 years' time, but we can only reduce the growth of the uptake of water.
But you're optimistic that big companies and regulators will be on board with that?
Yes, regulators are, there is a perfect standard from NSF that is applicable, mandatory in many states and counties in the US. It's called NSF 350 standard. And that was one of my goals, to be certified by NSF. And we did the 26-week test 1.5 years ago. We are certified. In Australia, they made a new accreditation so that our product fits and can be sold and installed. In Europe, there is a new standard, and all countries accepted this standard. So decentralized water recycling will be normal. We're now installing systems at football clubs. Football clubs. The people go there, they play football or do another sport. They go to change, they take a shower, and then they go to the canteen. So collected shower water, treat it, and then use this to flush the toilet. It is simple, but of course it needs the rethinking. For some people think you are a threat, but we are not. We are a partner.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's more and more understanding of that. We need it because we realize the drought, the consequences, and we literally see it with our own eyes. So that spirit, I think, makes a lot of sense and interesting.
But Siebe, sorry to interrupt you. Of course, for us, I just said we went to this 26 exhibitions worldwide, and number 27 was the CES in Las Vegas. And that was, of course, we were pushing for 2 years, traveling, telling the story, Gray water recycling is the solution. And this is an example of how it can be done. It's our product.
Yeah.
Now we don't want to do this all ourselves. We're open for partnering with other companies, and maybe other companies in the future will have a better idea. That doesn't matter. It has to be solved. Yeah. And then, of course, CES winning these awards and winning best of the best,
Yeah.
Sony and BMW and Samsung, this small company then from the Netherlands. Yeah, that really bang, we went over the world, all over the world. We were on television, and of course in the Netherlands, but also in Australia, South Africa, and this Brave Blue World movie that you mentioned, CBS television. So now we succeeded in telling this story so that people understand it, and our product is there, and other companies are now also thinking about it. I'm absolutely sure.
Yeah.
Actually, I know from some companies. Yeah.
Never give up. That's a great story behind that lesson. Now, lesson number 8, I find interesting as well, because obviously success can lead to making money. But lesson number 8, earning money is never the goal. It is the consequence.
Yeah, that is at least, yeah, I think so. Earning money does not make you happy. Maybe you can have a few cars or whatever, but it will not make you happy. Doing something that is meaningful and will make you happy. And if you do it in the right way, then the reward will come automatically.
Yeah, it is, let's say, for some people, as you can understand, sometimes difficult to understand, because if they have no money or not enough money to go around and sometimes to put food on the table, right? But at the same time, we're talking here, of course, people that are in a business situation. They may have a job, they may have their own business, entrepreneurs, etc. And it is easy to lose sight of the fact that it's all about the money. I think sometimes, and perhaps you and I were in the same boat so many years ago, when you're young, relatively speaking, then money seems to be the objective, because that's what you need in order to buy that car, or perhaps a second car. Now, once you have gone through your career, and like in your case, multiple careers, you put things in a broader perspective. And so I like what you're saying with your lesson. Earning money is never the goal, it's a consequence. And I understand that there will be people that said, well, that's easy to say.
Yeah, I can understand that. And I realize that on the other side, I think governments, should pay much more attention so that people can develop skills and can become proud of themselves, by achieving goals, by setting their goals that they want to do, which can be, a local shop, or and so that it's, and this is things that that could be done better by governments, but not giving them money, but giving them things to do so they can earn their living.
Opportunities, access to opportunities.
Create opportunities, yeah. And for this, of course, education is important, but motivation is also very important. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I understand, of course, the lesson. And putting it at a more global level, lesson number 9, doing right for people and the planet.
Yeah, doing right for the people around you, this is your family and the people, your neighbors, but also to the world. It brings a purpose and meaning to your life. It makes you feel happy. And, if you are this angry person and you always fight with your neighbor, people don't like you, but you won't like it yourself too. The world around you is responding how you are as a person and how you behave. And everybody is the center of his or her world. And if you smile, other people will smile to you. So you have a direct effect. You create your own positive world. If you smile to a person you're talking to, they will smile to you.
It's universal. It's universal.
It's universal. It's universal. Exactly. It starts with the little baby, he cannot even talk. And he starts already to understand that smiling has an effect. So, and it looks like that many people forgot it.
Yeah, I know. And perhaps that's a podcast for the next time, as far as, how can we make sure that the world is not so negative and controversial, etc., etc. That's a big issue, of course, especially right now. But doing right for people and the planet, of course, I think the planet, we all realize, I think, especially now, how relevant it is. It's no longer just an academic discussion. We see the impacts of climate change. And some people are suffering tremendously. You and I, obviously, we're both from a country that is situated below sea level, the Netherlands. And yes, many years ago, they started paying attention to that, but we're not there. And we have still additional challenges when it comes to the future. And I think worldwide, people have to recognize that. And I think they are, but we have to act accordingly. And it's no longer just a discussion, we have to act.
Yeah.
So now we get to lesson number 10. Teamwork is crucial. What are you thinking of in that regard?
Yeah. Well, teamwork is crucial in your personal life. You have your partner or you have your family, and so be open to them, and business, it's the same. And by being a part of a professional team, this team members can have individual better skills than yourself, maybe, but if you form a team, then you can fly, you're unbeatable. So don't try to do everything yourself, but do it with the team, and where the individual team members have better skills than yourself.
Yeah, I think that's smart. And that's sort of an egalitarian type of view, where you are the CEO of the company and you have people that work on your team, but you want to allow them to contribute in the best way possible. So you don't want to put them in a little box and say, well, that's not for you. We don't want to hear your thoughts or your opinion, but open it up, right?
Yeah.
Allow people to develop
exactly.
and give their input.
Yeah, I know. And I also had in my previous companies that, many people came in young and they developed their skills in the team or in the teams, and they would leave because they had a better opportunity somewhere else.
Yeah.
And they were, and I'm proud that we as a company could play the role in their life so that they could develop their career. It is something that made me and makes me proud.
Isn't that interesting how that can impact you, even though that person perhaps felt bad leaving your company and starting a new opportunity, maybe felt bad for a short time, but anyway, and you look back and say, I'm glad for that person. I'm glad he or she took that opportunity.
Yeah. Well, of course, sometimes they took the clients with them.
I know.
So it was not that easy, but this is a fact of life. It's normal. And you have to be prepared that this is happening. And then you can be proud that you created this also for others to happen.
Yeah, it's very good to hear that. And I understand completely what you're saying. And I think many people have had that opportunity to do well in their own careers, but then to be able to give back. And this is a form of giving back, to look at your team and making sure they feel well, even if they end up leaving the organization.
Yeah.
For the right reasons, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, 10 lessons, Arthur. Very, very interesting to listen to you. And at the same time, I'm curious, is there anything in your life, in your career, that you would have unlearned? You decided no more.
Yeah. Well, in general, I trust people also at first sight. So my first view, I trust a person. However, I learned and I experienced that in many times organizations, companies and governments are not trustworthy. And this is because a group of people can do things that the individuals that are in that group would not do if they were not depending on that group. So follow the money. If things happen, follow the money, be careful, especially when it's larger organizations, and follow the money and the truth will come true. And a good example is food companies, some companies in the food industry and also in the pharmaceutical industry. The food industry, They sell pretend food that looks healthy, but is empty, has no nutrition, and is full of fats and sugars. And they make money with it. And the pharmaceutical industry, on the other hand, they are offering medicine to fight the result of that bad food. So by the bad food induced diseases like diabetes, cancer, and heart disease, etc. And investors invest in both these companies. They are creating this business by giving bad food to the people, giving medicine, and this is business, and then people invest in it. This is terrible. And it's so sad that governments are not acting to improve people's health. This should change.
It's a tough one, right? Because you gave some good examples, but when it comes to trusting people, yes, you feel you can trust people at whatever level, if it's just a simple interaction or obviously people that you work with or are close to you. But I think many of us have experienced that, unfortunately, you always have to be aware that perhaps there is a different agenda, a different path that individual wants to take. And what I hear from you is that don't be shocked if that happens.
But but the individuals, the individual people are most of the time very trustworthy. But they are in a group or in a company, and they have to act in this group. And they have to do things because they have to pay their mortgage. They have to do things that they don't feel, that they're not proud of.
Yes, I hear what you're saying. And I'm thinking indeed in a corporate environment, sometimes issues related to business ethics. You experience sometimes opinions from people that you would say, if he or she would be not in their organization, but just as an individual, perhaps their opinion, their decision would be different. Then now that they're working for that organization, they have to stick with the opinion of senior management or whatever it may be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, interesting, good lessons. And I want to thank you for participating. It's a pleasure. And I know there's a lot more, and we will follow you and Hydraloop because there is indeed a lot more to come all over the world. Very exciting. I want to make some closing remarks. You have been listening to the international podcast, 10 Lessons. It took me 50 years to learn, produced by Robert Hossery and sponsored by PDF, the Professional Development Forum. PDF provides webinars, social media discussions, podcasts, and parties. And best of all, it's all for free. For more information, please visit professionaldevelopmentforum.org. Our guest today is the founder and CEO of Hydraloop, Arthur Valkieser from the Netherlands, sharing the 10 lessons it took him 50 years to learn. And to our audience, don't forget to leave us a review or a comment. You can also email us at podcast@10lessonslearned.com. That is podcast and the number 10 lessonslearned.com. Go ahead and subscribe and you won't miss another episode. And remember, this is a podcast that makes the world wiser and wiser. Podcast by podcast, lesson by lesson. Thank you and stay safe.